24 minutes to 11, and we are about to enter the mysterious world of the bureaucracy, red tape, and Shane Bowering. How are you, mate?
G'day, mate. How are you?
Not suggesting your world's mysterious, but
it's a bit mysterious at times, let me tell you.
Some of the things the bureaucrats do are a bit mysterious, I'd say.
Well, you can't work them out, can you?
Well,
and I used to work in there, and I still can't work them out. So, if I can't work them out, it's pretty hard for anybody else to work them out.
13 32, our number. Shane is from Red Tape Busters, and he's an expert at getting through the red tape, the bureaucracy, the things that the rest of us find absolutely infuriating.
The nonsense. That's what I'm called. It's nonsense.
It's very good.
They come up with nonsense.
It's very good. I was reminded by the first story we're going to talk about today of someone who I know of, in fact I knew, who drove regularly on the Gateway in the days when there were toll collectors there. And you had, all the manual collectors, or you had a lane for automatic.
Yeah, that could just go straight through.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And she couldn't figure out why she kept getting heaps and heaps of fines from the toll mob because she hadn't paid a fine. And someone said to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm driving an automatic car, so I'm going through the automatic." She thought if you had a manual, you went through the manual, and an automatic through the...
Mate, was she blonde?
Yeah, actually.
Well, not that they correlate. Not that they correlate. They don't. No,
I'm
not suggesting that at all. No. It's just a rhetorical question.
Yes, absolutely. That's all. We're getting dirty looks from outside.
Yeah,
there as well.
We'll be stabbed soon.
Now, this one concerns... This is a little win you had.
Yes.
Concerns just that, fines that relate to tolls.
Yeah, we've talked about it previously, and we had a listener call in, and she had two fines, and she had one through Queensland Motorways and one through Flow Toll.
Yep.
And what had happened was she'd sold the vehicle a long time ago.
Where did she get the fines for going through where?
Yeah, no, she didn't. She didn't.
But the vehicle,
yeah, the vehicle that she sold with the plates on has gone through. And
the Clem or somewhere?
Yeah, it was the Clem, I think, and also the Gateway.
Yep.
So anyway, the first one we got off, which was Queensland Motorways, she'd send in a stat deck saying, "Hey, I've sold it. That's how it is. You got to let me off." And they got back to her and said, "Tough luck. No way. We're not letting you off." And so did the Clem as well. Said no way. She got on to us through our segment here. And so I said, "Look, I think we'll be able to get you off. It shouldn't be a drama." So I contacted Queensland Motorways. Eventually they got back to us and said, "Yeah, look, she's done the wrong thing by leaving the plates on," which she did, absolutely. And I've said that to her. She's done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
However, they let her off and said, "Yep, no dramas." We updated listeners a couple of weeks ago, I think, saying we still had one in consideration. They've now got back to us and said that that's been rescinded as well. So fines are gone. Let me give a kudos to the Lord Mayor's office too. We have some debates with the Lord Mayor's office about development previously and whatever, but I'm always very vocal with the Mayor's office. They are fantastic in investigating things like this for us. I don't think we've had one so far that I've sent through that hasn't been rescinded because I will only take on things where I think that needs to be rescinded. That's it, where it's gone wrong.
Yep.
So the Lord Mayor's office, thank you as always. Fantastic. They're very responsive. Takes a little while for them to investigate and get back, but they always do, and they do a great job.
And a nice letter from the Lord Mayor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks very much, and so that's another win for us.
Well done, mate. 13 32, a number if there's something you can think Shane might be able to help with. Tolls are in the news, aren't they?
It was an interesting story this morning.
The case of a woman who got a couple of fines, $42 worth, turned out to cost her a fortune. Tell us the story.
Yeah, basically what's happened, from what I understand, she's gone over the tolls a number of times, and she had an automatic top-up account with the toll company, so a credit card was linked. However, then the credit card was lost, I think, which must have then cancelled the automatic top-up. She's then forgotten, and she's just kept using the tollway, and basically then she was, out of credit. There was nothing there, and so they've sent her saying, apparently sent her saying, "You owe this money." Now, whether she didn't get it or she ignored it, I can't really work out from the story, but in the end it's cost her $2,000 all up. From a $42 worth of tolls, it's cost her $2,000.
Wow.
And that comes back to to me, she needed to be a bit more considerate in making sure they had the right details. But even then, they reckon they've contacted her many times, and as I said, I don't know from the story whether those contacts were ignored or the lady involved just went, "Oh, too bad." I couldn't imagine that. But anyway, it's now up to $2,000 because it's gone to State Penalty Enforcement Register, which have hit her with $165, I think, per per fine that wasn't paid. That's right. Just ridiculous. Like, how can the management of it be $165? You know, to me, that's ludicrous. And, you know, surely I would have hoped that somebody in government or council would have intervened here and said, hey, well, look, you know, it is $2,000. However, your fines were $42.70. So how about we come to an arrangement of X, something reduced.
I mean, the whole area of tolls is a mystery to me. In 2013, there were more than $33 million in unpaid fees and fines for the Clem 7 and the Go Between
Bridge. It's huge, isn't it? It's massive.
Now, how can that happen?
Oh, it's massive. Now, obviously, some people are just avoiding, and then, you know, some people, you know, might have wrong plates on or whatever, and so you can't, or stolen vehicles, so you can't identify. There's also, obviously, a lot of people out there who, you know, make mistakes, but there's also some that I'm finding, you know, and we've found through the Lord Mayor's office that are clearly issued wrongly. That it's just an error. It's an error on behalf of either the consumer or from the tolling company. And look, I've had ones before where the digit was read incorrectly on the number plate, and the person has been then hit with a toll and then fined. And I've had to go back to Queensland Motorways and say, hey, that's the wrong number plate. That you've read a digit wrong. You know, which is a bit ridiculous. You know, should be pretty much automated. You would have thought.
You would have thought. Hello, Pat.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah,
hey,
very
Pat,
well.
How are you?
Oh, Shane, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, I just wanted to talk to you about your initial story. I've got loads of Queensland motorway stories, and I won't go into all of them, but they're all positive. I did sell a car. I'm not sure if that lady you initially first talking about sold an unregistered car, but I sold my registered car, and of course the plates remain on it, and
that's
that particular person didn't transfer it over. You've always got to assume that they do, but some people don't.
Yes.
And they accepted off me the receipt of when I sold the vehicle.
Yep.
And I got fines for that car as well.
Yeah, and it's good that you kept your documents, because it's really important. And with the transfer, normally you should keep the your seller's copy of the transfer form and your seller's copy of the roadworthy, because then if anything falls over down the track, you've got a record to go to Queensland Transport and say, hey, I sold this is gone.
That is so true, and I think the public out there also needs to know that a lot of people I've run into, especially older people, are under the impression that the device you attach to your car is at a cost, and I think everybody should have one, whether they, no matter if they go through tolls or not, because that would make everything so much easier. It's free to get.
Yeah, it makes it so easy, and you know, and it's really important because people just don't think. And I know a couple of young fellows who, you know, what we just talked about of the unpaids, they just don't care, because it just goes to spur then, and then they just go, oh, we'll pay it off at, you know, $1.50 a week for the next 1,000 weeks,
if they can find me.
Well, that's exactly right.
Exactly, and the paperwork involved dreadful. I used to work in a company like that, and if people just did that, the chase-ups and everything and the write-offs is incredible. And one more thing I was going to say too about the devices. When you have a device on a vehicle, it's only, as you would know, it's specific to that vehicle. So if you return it after you've sold a car, you're wiped off. Yeah, no,
okay. That's right, and it's actually something that I've just been pondering on, because I've just bought an old Jag, and it doesn't have a little tag, and I've taken the tag out of my Commodore, and I raced to the post office this morning. It's very opportune. I raced to the post office this morning thinking, oh, I wonder if I've been fined, you know. So, and I haven't got one yet, but it just reminds me that Monday I've got to ring up and add it to the list of vehicles and maybe get a tag for it as well.
I think it's worse if you take it off a heavy vehicle and put it in a car.
Yeah,
to save money, then you'll get a fine saying this vehicle is not registered to be on a toll.
Yeah, no, exactly. So no, it's very, very good advice. But yeah, keep your receipts and especially if you sell a vehicle, keep your records so that anything blows up down the track, you've got something to come back on. Good on you, Pat.
Yeah, well, I know now. Just in closing, that I transfer vehicles to the person I sell them to.
Yeah, do it yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Good on you, Pat. Thanks for the info.
Thank you.
See ya. Yes, it's a curious mentality, I must say, in relation to the way some things operate in this town. And I spoke a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago, Shane, when there was the story around saying that police are now not going to stop a car that's unregistered and issue a fine. They're going to send it to the owner's address. This was something that's been introduced through the Transport Department, which says to me that someone in there has absolutely no idea of how the real world works.
Exactly.
Because there are thousands of unregistered cars, thousands of uninsured cars driving around out there. And I'm sure each time that happens, the people say, well, I must change my address on the official form so the police know where to send the fine to me.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, and it comes back to the one really important aspect here is to not forget, if you're selling it unregistered, to make sure that you take your number plates off and hand them in. So sell the vehicle unregistered. If it doesn't have number plates, then, you know, and somebody jams some number plates on, that's their issue. But yeah, make sure you take those number plates.
Yet, but it feels like it. Talking with Shane Bowering from Red Tape Busters. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning.
G'day, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
What
The whole concept of these tolls being run by private companies and private companies issuing fines that are 42. The idea that a $40+ fine can end up $2,000, I think I just don't like the whole idea.
It is. It's tough to work out how it gets like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and the fact that it can, without any right of appeal or anything else, I think we've got to look at it. I'm worried about our democracy. I really am.
It is. It's a challenge, and you know, with the right of appeal, that's where, you know, I don't know what this young lady's done from the story in the paper, but I would have certainly been, you know, if it was me or it was somebody that I was working for, I'd be certainly lobbying the government and the council to come to an agreement where, because as I said, a lot of that $2,000 is $165 per fine for the state penalty enforcement register, which is state government. So I'd be looking at lobbying the minister, which is probably the Attorney General, I'm gathering, to say, hey, look, you know, this is an oversight. Yep, she's done the wrong thing, and see if you can negotiate a lower payment. You know, you might not get away with the $43.70 or whatever, or $42.70, but you might be able to say, look, you know, hey, I'll pay a couple of $100 in fines because it was, you know, my silly mistake, but $2,000 is ridiculous. So, yeah, there's an issue, I suppose, with the ownership of the tollways, and I don't probably have an issue that they're privately owned, but yeah, I certainly agree with you, Patrick, that, you know, we need to be very careful about, you know, how fines are issued and then your ability to be able to challenge those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good on you, Pat.
Good on you, mate. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, mate. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are curious as to how something like that happens. But as I said before, you know, the whole issue of tolls in this town is kind of weird. But it's good advice one of our callers had before is to get a card, get a little thing that registers. So because we're getting more of them, we're going to have a legacy tunnel.
Absolutely, they're going to be everywhere. And one of the things that, and one of our listeners was very adamant about this, and I think they've had a bit of a win, was they contacted me about why aren't there signs up anymore saying what the price is before you go into the tollway, and they were very adamant about the fact that they believed that it breached the competition consumer policy protocols because there was no ability for you to be able to be told before you entered what you were going to be charged, so that then you had to literally agree that there's the fees you've gone through, so you must have agreed that you wanted to pay that. And from my understanding, I've got a feeling that I read somewhere that the government is now going to reintroduce the fact that signs with the prices are going to be back up. I'll chase that down for next week, I think. I'm pretty sure that's there.
They have to be far enough away so you have an alternative.
Exactly.
If you don't want to go through, you can get off.
Exactly, because what they used to do was put them up, remember, at the toll booth.
Too late.
You know, you need to be able to, before the last exit, there should be a sign up saying this is what it's going to cost if you proceed, so that if you don't want to proceed, then you can take a detour. And yeah, one of our listeners was very good because he was very vigilant and he hammered the ACCC, he hammered government, federal, state. He'd email me and copy me in on everything, and he did a great job. Fantastic. And I'll chase that down for next week because I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Right,
nearly done for time today, but there was something you wanted to mention in relation to banking and keypads.
Yeah,
from
that's
one of our
right.
listeners?
We had one of our listeners who had a site side issue, and with the new tag and go type things, and
yes, with your credit card.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. There were some issues there with people who had a hearing issue, and because she can't see the keys, and there's a few other things there. So I just wanted to say I'm still looking into it. I've sent it off to the Ombudsman for a comment, and I've also sent it off to the banks for a comment. I'm waiting for them to get back to us, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have an answer.
Good stuff. All right, mate, and you must be feeling a little bit lost this weekend. No Manly.
Yeah, mate, no Manly this weekend. No rugby league really, except for City Country. So yeah, I won't be really taking much of a look at that, but I think I might replay the 78 grand final, Manly and Sharks, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, hopeless. All right, mate, good to talk as always.
Good on you, mate.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good on you.
Shane Bowering for Red Tape Busters will be in next Sunday morning again at the same time. So if you've got something you'd like to talk to him about, that's the shot.